Hello friends, my name is Dr. Huma Hassan and today's lecture is in the continuation of series of lecture of Anthropology Optional Paper 1. So guys, today we are going to discuss Charles Darwin theory, natural selection, and he has published a wonderful work, The Origin of Species. As I have explained in my previous lecture, that how in order to understand biological evolution, we need to understand this biological evolution into three major phases: pre-Darwinian phases and Darwinian phases, post-Darwinian phases. So today we are discussing Darwinian phases. So Charles Darwin have given a very important work, and this is a period where he was writing, okay, the natural selection, in his book The Origin of Species. To understand Charles Darwin theory, I would say it is very important to understand influences on thinkers. So when Charles Darwin was writing, he was also very much influenced by the writing of Thomas Malthus, and Thomas Malthus is again important thinker for anthropology, and it is actually a very important thinker for everyone who is understanding and who is into the UPSC preparation or any other preparation to understand population and growth. So Thomas Malthus has given a very important theory that how population growth and what will be the repercussion if we are going to have unchecked population growth. So Thomas Malthus was writing in 17th century, right? And then there is another very important thinker, Herbert Spencer, and this is also very important for us, Herbert Spencer, in order to understand social cultural theories of evolution, which is your sixth topic in paper 1. So Herbert Spencer is again very important person who was writing and who was born in like 1820 and died in 1903. So guys, when Charles Darwin was trying to understand that how species were originated, he was really interested to know that how how this variation which he sees all his surroundings, he was trying to understand that how we have got this variation in living organisms. And he was trying to also understand that why certain species wiped out and why other species remain and they multiply their particular you can say species. So it was very much it was very much like an inquisitive approach where he was trying to understand environment and living organisms. Okay, and when Thomas Malthus had written in the 17th century, it is a very important theory on population growth. So he says that what happened is that if we are going to have a lot of reproduction, if we are going to have population growth, and if it is unchecked, then there will be a problem. And what is the problem? Problem is that we will have large number of population growth, we will have highest number of population growth, but we will not have enough food to provide or to sustain this living organisms. So in this scenario, what will happen? Those species or those particular race who are not fit, they cannot survive, they will wiped off. Okay, so and then he had explained very precisely that how natural calamities will happen, and then how there's nature ways to wipe off certain numbers of population so that this cycle can grow. So Charles Darwin had really huge influence of Thomas Malthus. Herbert Spencer is again a very important biologist or sociologist, anthropologist. However, he was not like formal academician. He was writing privately. Okay, and it is little confusion aspirants generally have that this is the important theory of survival of the fittest is given by Charles Darwin. It was not given by Charles Darwin, it was given by Herbert Spencer. It is Herbert Spencer who says that the way organisms evolve and they move from simplicity to complexity, this is how society also moves from simplicity to complexity. Both Charles Darwin and Herbert Spencer were like, they had huge impact on each other. So they were like, their work were highly, you can say, complementary to their work. So now after understanding that, okay, when Darwin was writing and when he was giving this important theory, what was his influences? It's now important to for us to know that what are the 5 principles or the principles which Charles Darwin have given to us. Okay, so Charles Darwin have written few points which I'll just write down for you. He has written the universal occurrence of variation. This is his first principle, and he has given another important principle, that is an excessive natural rate of multiplication. He also have given this survival of the fittest theory into his work. And another point where here I write inheritance of, you can say, variations. Okay, so these are the 5 principles. So guys, we did discuss in the previous lecture when I was discussing about Lamarckism theory. Alright, so how Lamarckism for a very good period of time was being accepted as scientific theory of evolution. So where Lamarckism could not actually explain how this evolution comes and what are the facts basically. But after Lamarckism, the theory which got accepted widely, it was Darwin theory. So Lamarckism has given his various principles. He had also explained inheritance, the characteristics. He had explained the theory of use and disuse, and he also said that whensoever we require something, so we get that organ. But we know that no, it was not a scientific theory. But Charles Darwin theory is very much, you can say, it's close to the fact. In fact, his theory later on, when we got post-Darwin theory, it also got rejected. But yes, the natural selection and the modern synthetic theory, which we know is actually the today's contemporary theory, which explains about genetics, which explains that how evolution had taken place. But Darwinian theory, which he had explained, it is based on this, I would say, 4 principles: the universal occurrence of variation, an excessive natural rate of multiplication, survival of the fittest, inheritance of variation. One important, I would say, hypothesis also given by Charles Darwin, it is about pangenesis or gammules. So this is again an important theory which was given by Charles Darwin. Okay, so let's discuss again about this theory. So Charles Darwin has given that very important work of natural selection. Okay. So his theory is based on several facts, observation and inferences, and this is his book name, The Origin of Species. So he says that what is happening, he says that the change in species by the survival of an organism exhibiting natural variation. So he says that whatsoever living organisms we take or we see, they will naturally have variation. So this is the basic characteristics of all living organisms. So he says that the universal occurrence of variation. So he says that whatsoever group we have, whether it's of plants or animals, there are various other organisms which may differ from us. And at that point of time, Darwin did not understand the cause of variation, and he simply said that it is an innate property of living beings. So he explained that the variation is a natural quality of all living organisms. So he did not give a scientific explanation to it, why we have different types of humans, why we have different types of races, why we have variation in plants and animals. But he said that this is an innate quality which is just there with all living organisms. So this is his first principle. Then he said that an excessive natural rate of multiplication. And this is what he got very much influenced by Thomas Malthus. He says that naturally living organisms will multiply their species, okay, and they will multiply in geometric progression. And if this geometric progression is not being checked, then there will be a problem in maintaining equilibrium. And he says that in this process, when there will be too much of population growth, there will be a fight, there will be a struggle for existence. So this is his another principle. He says that because then we have lot many individuals and we have limited foods, how one can survive? So those whosoever can fight, those who can soever struggle, they will survive. And this is a theory, in fact I said the survival of the fittest is a theory which was given by Herbert Spencer. Here I like to bring you a very important aspect of Herbert Spencer. So when Herbert Spencer gave this important theory of survival of the fittest, he was being liked by various industrialists, capitalists, because at that point of time Karl Marx had already given his theory of class struggle. So when survival of the fittest or in the natural selection theory which was given to us by Darwin, so they both are explaining that in order to survive in society or in order to survive and live, you have to be fit. So if you are fit, then you do not require, welfare measures. And you do not have to worry about those who are poor or those who are deprived. So they will naturally going to adapt themselves in a changing situation, and if they are not able to adapt, they will wiped off. So this is what Herbert Spencer also said, and that is why some capitalists or industrialists took this approach in their favor, and they say that they are not doing anything wrong even if they are doing exploitation. So this is just a perspective to all of you to explain this very important point, that in anthropology you must take understanding of biological evolution and then you should bring this understanding to social evolution. Biology and sociology or social cultural anthropology or archaeological anthropology or linguistic anthropology, they are not different branches. Exactly, they are one, they are all dependent on each other. So when we understand that how we have evolved from, you can say, from simple cell to multicellular organism, how we have evolved from prokaryotic to eukaryotic cells, we need to understand that this is the way we grow. From simplicity to complexity we grow, and this is what even so many social cultural anthropologists is also explaining. So biological evolution is not different from social evolution. This is what Robert, this is what Robert Redmayne is also telling us. This is about Robert Redfield. He is explaining that how we have moved from little tradition to great tradition. This is what Ferdinand Tönnies have explained, or Emile Durkheim have explained, in order to giving this good understanding of mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. So this understanding also should reflect in your social cultural anthropology, because we do have evolution theories as well. So evolution theory, which is the later part in your paper 2, you can understand very well if you can understand Darwin theory. Okay, so yes, as I was telling you the principles, struggle for existence is its Darwin third principle. And then we have got survival of the fittest. So he said that in this struggle, those who are fit, they will survive. This survival of the principle, this survival principle, you must also correlate with Gauss principle. And Gauss principle is there in your syllabus as well, in 1.4 only, and UPSC did ask question in Gauss principle. So Gauss principle, what is Gauss principle? Gauss principle is also saying that naturally in the environment, if we are having species who are competing for similar resources, in that struggle only that species will survive who can get control over that resources, and there will be a natural struggle, conflict between those similar organisms competing for that same resources. So this is a Gauss principle. So Gauss principle is very well, you can apply to Karl Marx theory of class struggle as well. And this is what your original ideas. Guys, I really like to bring one important point here, that when you are preparing for UPSC, do not think that you want all this content only. Contents are important indeed, but they are important for you to have basic understanding. In 250 or 270 words, you can only produce your original ideas, and UPSC, I believe, they are looking for original ideas. They do not want academicians. It is not graduation or master's exam. It is competitive examination where I believe that we are looking and striving for someone who can look after the grassroots level of or the problems of society, and by having different perspectives, by having abstract thought process, they are able to solve this or they can become a good administrator. In this, what is required in this? It is very much required to have a critical mindset. So when we are reading all this theory, let's just say biological theories of Darwin, of Lamarckism, or you can say post-Darwinian theory, modern synthetic theory, whatsoever it is, we should understand with our own ideas. We must take the content, we must make our own notes. Your notes should be of your own handwriting, and then you should apply your own ideas. And ideas, how you can apply? You can make interconnections. The way I have just made the interconnection in front of you. So I am talking about survival of the fittest. I am talking about Darwin theory, but I have correlated it with Thomas Malthus theory of population and growth, which you are going to also read in your demography and population. Also, I have correlated it with Herbert Spencer theory. And again, with this particular point, I have correlated it with Gauss principle. With Gauss principle, I have related it with Karl Marx. So this is my own original ideas, and this is what I request to all my followers and aspirants, that please focus on original ideas which you can develop while having hard work, while writing and having correlation. So I will say that please increase your knowledge base. So what is the next principle? The next principle, inheritance of variation. So it says that, so those individuals who got survive will give their characteristics to the next generation, and thus successful variation will survive. So this is, you can say, very much related with Lamarckism theory as well, where he says that whatsoever characteristic we have, inheritance, it will going to go to our offspring as well. Here one important development which Darwin have made, he says that how this variation goes from our offspring to offspring, how this next generation received these characteristics. Here he has explained a theory of pangenesis, right? So this is the pangenesis hypothesis. So what is this pangenesis hypothesis? It is also known as gammules. So this theory, it simply says, so Darwin did not explain how and what. He simply says that what happened, that every cells in living organisms, they have miniatures. So miniature is like they have all the coding of our features, like so in my blood I have in my blood cells. So what is happening in my blood cells? I have all the information about my eyes, about my all other parts, the nose, how I'm going to look after, how I'm going to look, whatsoever information, the kind of person I am, the information which now we know it's DNA, it is there in the blood itself, it is there in the cells. And what happens that through this blood circulation, all this information is now, it gets stored into our gamete cells. So when then there is a mating happening between male and female, so that it gets fused and then only we get this information. So simply he explained that all the information which we have, it is already there in our blood cells, and through blood cells it gets into our germ cells or into our gametes, and then from our sex cells it transfers to our offspring. So this is what he has given an important point. So he said that all the cells in the body of an animal produced, what they do, they produce miniatures of themselves, and he called that miniature as you can say gammules or pangenesis, and these informations are shed into bloodstream and carried to the sex glands, that is reproductive organs, testicles and ovaries, where they were assembled to form sex cells, that is zygote. And when this fertilized egg undergoes develop, this information goes to new cell or new individual, that is offspring. Okay, and this is, I would say, roughly an important understanding with reference to Darwin theory. And then this theory makes sense to us. Before we could understand modern synthetic theory, that yes, natural selection is there, but then there is also another development. This is like genetics. So it's genetics and then natural selection, both combined, and then in the later phase we have come to know that how life actually originated. So guys, in this lecture I have explained Darwinian theory, right? I have explained that how environmental changes actually modified organs, and then we have modified pangenesis, and this theory for a great period of time explained evolution of living organism. So in my next lecture I am going to talk about modern synthetic theory, in which we will understand that how the information of genes and natural selection, now we know that how this evolution had taken place. But Charles Darwin theory gave an important insight. It's very imperative for us to understand biological evolution. So thank you so very much. I hope you liked my lecture. If you really liked my lecture, please subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell button so that you can get the notification whenever I'm going to upload my next lecture. Thank you so very much. Take care.